If you haven't heard of the cycle of abuse, it's a really helpful tool to help people understand when abuse might occur in a relationship and help just identify the cycle that it occurs in. It can also be a helpful tool for people who are wanting to leave a relationship. If you can identify that this cycle happens, it becomes a lot easier to leave if that's your goal. So let's go over the 4 stages of the cycle of abuse. In stage 1, we have tensions building. This is a time where you might feel like you're walking on eggshells, you're kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. Things maybe haven't blown up yet, but you know something's gonna happen. This is a time where a person might become fearful about what's gonna happen, when their partner's gonna snap. They're trying not to say the wrong things, but tensions are really building here, and you know that something's gonna happen. In stage 2 of the cycle of abuse, this is where there's some sort of incident. It might be a physical altercation, it might be a verbal altercation, but there's some sort of blow up that happens. So these are those moments where we feel like we're being blamed. Your partner might be extremely angry at you. There's arguing, there's threats, there's intimidation, but there's some sort of incident that happens. Stage 3 makes me so angry for the victim here, because stage 3 is when there's some sort of reconciliation. Now, for some abusers, that means you're gonna find them apologizing profusely for what they said, for them hitting you, begging for forgiveness, trying to make things right. But you also might have abusers who don't necessarily apologize. Maybe they just make the whole incident out to be a lot less than it was. Maybe they say, like, what are you talking about? It wasn't a big deal. Or they make you question, like, whether it even happened. Or maybe they're kind of just blaming you for the whole event, like, whatever, not a big deal. Like, you're making this way bigger than it needs to be. So that's stage 3, reconciliation. Finally, we come to stage 4. And stage 4 is the stage that causes a lot of victims to stay in abusive relationships or to minimize the abuse taking place. Stage 4 is where there's this calm. It's like a calm after the storm. Everything kind of returns to normal. Perhaps your partner's super loving or just not angry. There's no incidents happening. You don't feel like you're walking on eggshells really at this moment as much as you normally are. It's this honeymoon phase. And a lot of people end up staying in relationships for a lot longer than they should, because they get to this phase and they think, see, there's so much good here. It's not always like that. But I think that's why it's so helpful to know about this cycle of abuse, because once you can identify this cycle, it becomes a lot easier to predict what's going to happen next. And it's why oftentimes, like when I've talked to women locally in person who are going through abusive relationships, they'll get to this stage 4 after they've told me about other incidents, and they'll be like, oh, I'm gonna try again. And I know that something else will happen, and it does, like it always does. It's a very predictable cycle for abusers, especially if they're not getting any sort of help to change, and most of them aren't. So that is a cycle of abuse. So if you find yourself in a relationship that you're thinking, maybe that's me, start paying attention to that cycle. See how often it's occurring. See if it applies to your situation, and maybe it can be a tool or a motivation to help you get out if you need to. If you're someone who knows someone else in a relationship like this, you can maybe help identify the stages in that cycle. But also, as a friend of someone going through a bad relationship, remember that stage 4, man, it just like gives you rose-colored glasses, and it can be really hard for someone to leave when they're in that stage, when they consistently get that calm back every time, right? That's the cycle of abuse. If you have questions about it, down below, let me know. If you've experienced the cycle of abuse and you're out of your relationship, I really want you all to be safe if you're commenting. But if you've experienced a cycle of abuse, either in a intimate relationship or other sort of relationship, and you want to share what that looked like for you, just for others to see, let me know, or let us know down in the comments. Share your experience below. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this was a helpful explanation. To show my coffee cup. What is it? I got it from my best friend. If eating cake is wrong, I don't want to be right. That's true.